bear with me, I've never done this before.
No problem.
So I'm total novice.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Fine.
Tonight is the last night of the tour.
Uh-huh.
How have you felt the tour has gone?
Really well. It's been fabulous, given that my motto on a tour is we haven't had a hit in 22 years. So given the fact that there's anybody who has to see us, it's great. But, you know, I mean, that makes it sound like I'd be happy if there were 10 people there. There've been some good turnouts actually. I'm hoping for a lot for tonight. Last night in Leicester was really packed. London was really good. You know, we go kind of around the places. Some other places, some other venues aren't as busy. But you know, for me, I suppose at this point it's more important that we're playing really well and we're enjoying it. And we actually, I mean, someone said to me last night that they've never heard us play as well, and they've seen us play, you know, over the last 25 years, something like that, and then think that we're much better now. To be honest, I can't agree with that. And so for me, that's because in my role as a kind of musical director, that's the important thing. Yeah, so yeah, it's been good in a number of ways.
That's good then. Obviously, Al hasn't been playing on this tour.
Yeah.
How have you found it different to not have him lurching and bounding all over the place on stage? And I bet the backstage area has been quiet without that booming laughter of his.
You're dead right about the laughter, yeah, that's right. Although sometimes I'm sure we can hear it across the Atlantic. Actually, Gary's got pretty good at kind of looming around the stage in an Alan style, maybe not quite as manic, but he's also got very good at dodging me. So, yeah, it has been different. It's a shame that Al's not here, and you notice from a musical point of view as well that Alan has his own style, which I've become very used to and kind of almost expect. And it's strange it's not there, but you know, that's not to say anything against Gary. Gary's doing a really good job.
But then you couldn't replicate Al. Nobody could replicate Al because you can play the same notes, but it won't be the same.
I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting just how much personality you can inject into something playing, as you say, just the same notes.
Right. The band have been playing Magazine again for the first time in ages.
Yeah.
Have you taken a different approach to this track, or have you kept it pretty much the same as on first?
It's quite different in that been kind of. It's not really been redeveloped. Obviously, the thing with Perverse is it was all meant to be very kind of synthetic and all very digital. And when we're playing live, it's completely opposite. We want it to be very much a kind of guitar band, rock band kind of feel. So it is different in that respect, although it's going to be hard for people to realise that really that's how, the way we play it now is kind of how the song would have started off. Okay. And then I would have put the other electronic stuff in later on. So it's really the same kind of, the backbone of it is identical. But yeah, it is just slightly different sounding. Because
I've always found it myself very interesting to hear the fact that when you hear something on record, you hear everything that's on there. But obviously it is, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's very hard to recreate exactly what you hear on the record live perfectly.
Yeah, that's true, and you also get the thing that a producer will sometimes actually prefer one guitar line or one keyboard part or something, and they'll push that through. They'll make a strong argument if you're doing that. And from an artist's perspective, normally if you've hired a producer, it's because you trust their judgment, so you go with their judgment. Whereas when you come to do it live, you know, the things that you liked about the song in the first place, that's how you do it.
So the song takes on a different meaning then?
Yeah, well, it takes on a different sound, but yeah, basically.
Okay. Right, you've pulled out a real rare track for this tour with Dead People's Lives.
Yeah.
What led you to decide to bring it out for us to hear?
It's a song that I've always liked. It's one of those ones that when you're listening to kind of reissues and stuff like that, it would come on. I think, well, actually, I do quite like this one, and it's strange. I was just talking about this on the stage the other night. The way that in that era, that kind of in 1991, we were releasing songs so fast that a lot of them just kind of they were written, they were recorded, they came out, and we just moved on and forgot them. But it doesn't mean to say they didn't have some kind of worth. And Dead People's Lives, and there's a couple of others from that era as well that are likely, I think, to turn up later on. Dead People's Lives is one of those songs I'd always quite liked. I felt quite pleased, and it's a shame we've never done it before.
Right, okay. No, this You've almost answered my next question.
Ah.
Now that you've played Dead People's Lives on
Yeah.
this tour, are there any other chances of B-sides that are fan favourites appearing? Like Maryland, starting from scratch, being played at future shows?
Yeah, I think there is. The problem is if you ask for fans' opinions on which songs they want to do, you'll get an equal number of answers for every B-side you've ever made. So it doesn't really help in a way. At some point, you've just got to say we're going to be doing this, and that's all there is to it.
Exactly. That's what I did the whole Versus thing on a Jesus Jones fan site page on Facebook.
Yes,
and it was interesting to see how that came up and what the fans' opinions were.
Right, yeah.
And actually, the final was what I predicted it would be right at the start.
Right, yeah.
I thought it would be Maryland and Dead People's Lives.
Right, okay.
And I'd been speaking to Ian, and he said to me, "Oh, we won't be playing Dead People's Lives because I've lost the samples."
Yeah.
I was like, very well played, Ian.
Well, these days we're actually recreating everything. I've stopped being so prissy about it has to be exactly the same sound. I think especially when you play it live, and it's a bit of a jumble, a bit of a blur anyway.
Yeah.
I just get it fairly. If it's close enough, if it does the same job, if it gives you the same feeling from it, that will do. So it doesn't matter that much about being precise about the original samples. So actually, sorry, that means to answer your question. I think certainly there will be other B-sides from that era coming back. That's by and large it's going to be if I think it's worth doing.
Yeah.
So there's another song from that. I can't remember which is. It's not Maryland, which I'm not all that keen on. Starting from scratch is pretty good, but there's something else. It'll come to me in a while. There's another one I always quite like when I listen back, and I can imagine doing that one again.
Damn good at this.
Actually, we did used to play that live a lot in the early days, so I could see that one coming back in quite easily.
In 2013, you recorded a live Lixizer CD DVD, which seemed to go down really well with the fans. And last year we had the Doubt Tour, but so far no CD DVD that we're aware of. I don't know if you've recorded anything.
Right.
What are the chances of you doing the same for Doubt and committing it to film?
I'm pretty strong. In fact, I seem to recall there were plans to do that, and you just reminded me about it. And, that's not my department.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Yes, I'm now I recall. What did happen to that idea? But it's obviously something that we'd like to do again.
Yeah, because I thought it was fantastic here. Nowadays, it seems to be a lot of bands are able to get away with playing an album live, whereas in the past it'd have been sort of commercial suicide doing a whole album live.
But I agree. But I think it's also, especially if some time's gone by, you get people who've listened to an album as an album. I think if you can't do an album that's just come out, I think that's people haven't had time to listen to it. I think to build a perfection for an entire album, you need quite a lot of listening experience.
Yeah.
You need a lot of time, basically.
With the Doubt Tour last year, it's only natural that the fans are now starting to ask, will we see any tours or shows for the Perverse album? What a lot of fans would like to know is it something you consider?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. Only the predictability of it puts me off. Okay, you've done that one and that one, so... I would love to do it, and I can definitely see that we do it. I mean, there aren't absolute plans at the moment. I can't see why we wouldn't. Right. It would be really quite a challenging one for me to do. I'd have to spend a lot of time trying to recreate some songs that were only ever studio songs into live. But that would be fun. It's just the kind of thing that takes quite a lot of time to rework.
Yeah. For me, Perverse was always a really intense, moody album, especially what would have been side 2 if you would have taken final, where things just seem to get very depressed and negative. It's been well documented how you felt at the time of writing the album. So what I'd like to know is, what are your feelings on songs like Tongue Tied, Your Crusade and Spiral nowadays?
I still like them because I think that they were written with a kind of true spirit. That is actually how I felt. So it's not like I was acting. I was not going in. It was not some kind of guise that I was putting on. So I can still, those were valid emotions at the time, I can still connect with those. For me, it would just come down to the actual quality of the song. So something like Tongue Tied, I have very fond memories of, and I remember we used to play it a lot on tour, and so I'm very fond of that. Spiral, again, we played that a lot, and I do like that. So yeah, I feel that there's. I don't regret writing those things at all, and I still like listening to it. I mean, Perverse is one of the albums I do listen to a lot.
That's interesting to hear, because a lot of artists don't seem to go on about listening to their own albums.
Yeah.
They sort of do it and then forget about it and move on to something else.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as soon as I said I listen to it a lot, that's actually not true. It's one of the albums I don't listen to many albums much at all once they're done. I think by and large for me, because I spend so much time on every single element of every single song, that there comes a point where you just don't want to hear it, and then you gradually come back to it. But you know, after a passage of 5 years or something of not listening to albums, I will go back and kind of feel uneasy about a lot of Liquidizer, feel very uncomfortable about a lot of Doubt, but they actually feel quite happy about listening to Perverse and Already as well, actually.
With Spiral being very similar to Stripped in that it wasn't easy to play live, would you be looking at a rewrite of it like you did with Stripped?
Well, if it were for a Perverse tour, I'd like to keep it as close to the original as possible, unless, as in with the case with Stripped, it just would not work at all in a live scenario. We already know Spiral would work live because we played it live. So no, I wouldn't think about reinventing that.
Okay.
When you talk to me about kind of reinventing bits of Perverse, straight away I say the things that might have to have big changes would be From Love to War, for example.
Okay.
That I think would need quite a lot of reimagining.
I mean, for me personally, that would be an added bonus, knowing that you're coming to hear something and suddenly it's like, okay, I'm not hearing the album as it was, I'm hearing something a little bit different and newer to it, and it adds a fresh bit of a take on it.
Sure, yeah, but for reasons that we already talked about, it would sound different. It wouldn't, just the way that, as I said, the producer's idea versus my idea means that what you'd hear live would inevitably be different.
That's what I liked so much about Liquidizer, was the fact, Liquidizer Live was the fact that when you listen back to it on the DVD or the CD, as you suddenly heard parts that you hadn't previously heard before on the actual album, because it was buried in the mix so much beneath everything else.
Absolutely.
That's what was going on.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly it.
Right, I hope I haven't misquoted you this. In 1993, you in particular took a huge blasting by the press where you were misquoted over saying Perverse was the first real rock record of the 90s. You were all slated for recording the album digitally on computer, but now it's totally par for the course using computers. How does that leave you feeling, knowing you helped lay down what's practically become industry standard nowadays by recording to computers within the rock world?
The same. I don't feel kind of smug, and I don't feel any kind of told you so about it. But it's. I don't take any kind of self-congratulatory feeling from that. That's just what I wanted to do at the time. And I'm glad that I did it, and it's nice that people like you would notice it. But other than that, I'm not really that bothered. To me, it just seemed the same with incorporating dance music into rock music. It seemed such an inevitability that it was daft, if not perverse, not to do that. I couldn't see why would you want to do any other thing. So for me, it's just everyone's doing what was inevitable, and I can't kind of be smug about that.
I mean, I found Perverse was very almost industrial tinged, because I listened to a lot of stuff like Nine Inch Nails and things like that. And actually, I found, whereas Liquidizer has to a certain extent sounded dated with the keyboards, and Doubt in a couple of places has sounded dated, apart from Stripped, which is still the mother of all heaviness. I found Perverse, for some reason, has not sounded dated at all, and I've had friends that I've known that are sort of 20 years younger than me, and I've played in Perverse and they've sort of gone, what the hell's this? This is amazing. I'm like, this was recorded in '93, and they were like, I wasn't even born then. That's they were expecting some sort of 70s sounding album, to realise that it's surprising that the sounds you were doing was so forward thinking. Did you expect it to stand the test of time?
No, not at all. No, nothing that we did I expected to stand the test of time, to use that phrase of yours. I was aware that we were to some extent making pop music. You know, we were trying to write singles, and whenever you do that, you know, you are then involved in fashion to some extent, and fashion, you know, changes so quickly. So I knew that they had a short shelf life, and I think all that happens in the end. The thing is, you write kind of. There are two parts to a song. There's the song itself. There's the nature of the song, but there's also the kind of the trimmings of it, and it's the superficial stuff, the arrangements, that things are dated. Whereas the songs themselves, if they're good songs, they remain. But you know, and some songs I think were all right, and so they.
Yeah. Well, they've obviously got to be all right because you're still playing them in a set.
I guess, yeah.
Right, I'd like to talk to you about Already, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Back in 1996, I finally got to see and meet you guys for the first time in Exeter, which for me was a dream come true as a kid that had the posters up on the wall and the vinyl and everything. And on that tour, you were road testing new material for what's to become the Already album. The shows we played were very small venues, but I clearly remember really enjoying the new material that I heard at the time, especially Man on the Moon and Top of the World.
Right, yeah.
I remember leaving the show thinking the new album's going to be absolutely killer. A year pretty much passed.
Right, yeah.
And you know, we all know about that.
Yeah.
Already arrives, and I'm left thinking, what the hell? These songs, you know, some of these songs aren't the songs I remember you playing them live.
Okay, yeah.
And the way they were played live. Obviously, it's been well documented what happened with the rewrites of Already and all that happened in that period. Last year, the deluxe version of Already came out, and I finally got to hear the songs that I remember hearing in 1996. So my question to you is, looking back, if you could go back, would you have stood your ground with Food and said, this is the album and it stays that way?
That's an interesting question, because I think from an artistic point of view, yes, there was no point hanging around. All it did was just kind of delayed everything, and we didn't gain anything by taking all our time over it. I think it was just a little nervousness on behalf of the record company. However, the kind of real politic element is that if you kick up that kind of a fuss with your record company, the relationship breaks down and nothing gets done. And the chances are that you end up just being shelved, you know, kind of nothing moves forward at all. So artistically, yes, it would have been better just to get on with it and get it done and move on to the next thing. And if it was a bitter pill that had to be swallowed, then so be it. But you know, then you go on and hopefully something sweeter next time. But like I said, it's very hard if you're battling the people who are working with you. It's very difficult. If I start picking an argument with you now, you know, you're going to find it hard to put a positive slant on what you're doing here.
Not so.
So you see that it's an interesting kind of split there.
With listening to the deluxe version, it made me completely reevaluate Already. I came to look at it as listening to what was the demos released. To me now, that is Already, and I look at it as the proper official album version is almost like a reinterpretation of it. Is what I feel Already is now. And having listened to it and everything else that was coming out at the time, I don't really understand what Food's problems were with it, but it seemed to fit pretty much what was going on. And it was very, very different again to what you'd done previously with Perverse.
I think, you know, Food and EMI, because, you know, Food had to answer to EMI above the chain to them. And I think all the way up that chain, there's a lot of nervousness. They all wanted to hear the absolutely certified killer hit. That was essential at that point in our career. We had to have a killer hit. And no one heard it. Whether it was in there or not, I don't know. But, you know, everyone was... They just wanted to keep going until suddenly something hopefully became a killer hit, which I think is kind of chasing your own tail, really.
That's incredibly frustrating.
But I think it's an interesting point you mean about the interpretation, because we were talking before about working with a producer. If you think about, you know, having seen Doubt stuff, the way that Real 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 sounds, I play Real Real Real, or we play Real Real the way it was written. It sounds very different from the Harding and Kerno produced version, but that's because it's their interpretation. When you work with a producer, that's what happens. It's rare that a producer says, it sounds great, I'm just going to mic everything up, go, that's it. And there's your album. Yeah, normally it's kind of, we're going to rewrite this, we're going to put more instrumentation here, going to change this section. And you know, as an artist working with producers, you go with it because you've chosen to work with a producer because you believe they have a vision that will help your music.
And you obviously want to get the best you can get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, there's again, this is going to sound like a horrible pun, but every artist has a lot of doubt about what they do, and particularly in difficult times like the middle of the 90s was for us. You're never really sure that you're doing exactly the right thing because it's very hard to do that. So it's very easy to be guided. Sometimes, there might have been decisions that a producer took about music that I was uncomfortable with, but I think, well, either I trust them or I don't.
Yeah.
And at some point you just got to go with it and have fun with it.
Understood. Also on the deluxe editions of Already, we got to hear some really interesting techno-influenced tracks that you did for a film. Was this the original blueprint for Already, as you can still hear some of it in motion?
Yeah. Do you know, I would have a lot of difficulty remembering that. I mean, I was always writing little bits of music, so I can't remember. It's Addiction, Obsession and Me was written for that film Shopping, most definitely. Motion wasn't. I seem to remember Motion just being written for the album. Maybe Ian and I were doing a lot of DJing at the time. I might have written a bit of music for a kind of DJ or electronic set that then became that song. I can't remember. That sounds likely, but I'm not entirely sure. So.
It's been a very long time since we've heard any new songs committed to tape. Culture Vulture EP being the last.
Yeah.
So in the future, do you see Jesus Jones releasing full albums, or are you more interested in releasing EPs?
I was thinking just singles. I didn't see, as someone who really just, like most people these days, just downloads the old song. However, Ian's very keen on getting an EP done, and we're now actually on this tour. We've been talking about a proper album. I've got at the moment 9 bits of music in various stages of completion. I'd say from 10% finished to 90% finished. The 90% finished one would be playing tonight. So with that, we're so close to a full album with that, it kind of seems daft not to. So we are now looking at a full album probably in about a year's time.
Okay.
But with an EP in about 6 months' time, I would imagine around about Easter.
Cool. Having already had a successful crowdfunding project for Liquidizer Live, do you see yourselves going down the route of Pledge or Kickstarter for future releases?
I would ask Ian about that. That's kind of I've just concerned myself with the music these days.
Okay.
That kind of stuff. I can't answer your questions.
That's fine. I'd like to ask you about your recent update on your Facebook page regarding more regular updates on music you've written and band-related tour info.
Yeah.
Is there anything you care to share? What's the overall thing behind it?
Yeah, I think with everything we do, whether it's creating music or rehearsing or playing live dates, there's always a process involved in that which leads to a finished product. And obviously everyone gets to know the finished product, by which I mean they can see us live or they hear a finished version of the song. I figure there's a load of stuff that could be interesting to fans and wouldn't undermine what we do. We're just illustrating parts of that process. The stepping stones to finishing a song. For example, that where a song is at its very beginning and how I develop it, down the line. Also, I've got some video footage on this tour of me warming up, for example, because I did a video post yesterday or today, I think, about the warming up process. About people imagine you just kind of walk in the dressing room, put some clothes on, walk out on stage, but it's actually quite a system.
Yeah, there's a lot to warming up your voice.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I figure that all the bits of the process could be of interest to fans of the band. Maybe not to people who aren't fans of bands, but then they're not going to sign up for the mailing list anyway.
Right. I'd like to ask you about if you've got any memories of recording or playing live a list of these songs.
Right, okay.
Any memories on top of the world, either recording or live?
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah. Loads of things from recording. Took a lot of time over that in Martin Phillips' house. Martin Phillips, who produced right here, right now, and already, getting out some of his strange guitars. He's got some very strange guitars, and we tuned them all weirdly. And he pushed me pretty hard actually to play some different stuff. I can remember playing it live. I remember writing it. I remember actually there was a place in Utah called Top of the World that is written about. So plenty of memories for that.
idiot stare.
Well, yeah, I mean, we play every single gig, so what can I remember? I'm not sure if there's anything kind of specific I can remember about that. I just think of Sonic Youth when I think of that song. That's the connection that I made. In particular, the trilogy series from the Daydream Nation album. That's for me what that song is all about.
Right, any memories of recording, or because I don't know if you've ever played this one live, to get there from London, from the London album?
Yeah, no, we weren't to play it live. No, I have no memories. I have to hear it back again. It's one of those ones I haven't heard in a long time.
Okay, any particular memories from recording or playing live of Bliss?
Nothing from the recording, bizarrely. I have no recollection of recording that at all. But plenty of memories of touring it live in America and playing on big stages and just letting that kind of spin out. And I know that really what I was aiming for, the kind of the middle section and the end section, is really trying to get the same effect as I'm Not in Love by 10cc. It just goes to that big section, all these kind of big choral voices, and it's all very kind of ethereal and airy. That's really what I was aiming for with that.
Because I remember hearing from one of the live bootlegs and from Radio 1 back when it used, in '91, and that I remember hearing Bliss, and it was like, wow, this is going on forever, but it's really building to something, and it sort of, for me, it took the level of what was on the record, took it up to another level, and it really worked sort of well with the extended version of it. Okay, any memories of recording of What Would You Know?
Again, nothing of the recording. Can't remember recording that at all. It's often caused us difficulty with a breakdown in the middle because we extend it in the middle and we kind of do stuff with that. But yeah, lots. It's always very manic, that song, so it reminds me a lot of kind of crazy touring days of kind of really pushing that hard in gigs and having a blast with that in the way that we do with one or two other songs now.
Okay, any memories of recording or playing Man on the Moon?
Yeah, I do remember that tour. I actually remember that Exeter gig. I like that song a lot. I remember thinking putting a slide guitar in there was quite an unusual thing for me.
It was. That's what stood out for me when I heard it. I was like, oh, this is good. This is different.
I quite enjoyed it for that.
And to be honest, I don't know what the calling was behind it, but I never understood why it wasn't on the UK album.
Yeah, me neither.
And I always personally thought it should have been the opener.
I think it was written as that as well, actually. That was the idea that I had for that song. I think it got put as a B-side for one of the early singles.
It was the B-side of Next Big Thing when it came out, and that's when I looked at it and thought, it's been relegated.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things that I believed in, but I don't think the record company did.
Right. Okay. Right, and this is a bit of an epic song. Any memories of recording or playing live for February?
Yes, I do remember the recording for this one. I remember very clearly trying to. There's a classical composer called Stephen Reich, and R-E-I-C-H, and he does this thing where he. The classic of his is the clapping song, I think it's called. There's someone clapping. But then he adds in an overdub of clapping that's just very slightly out of time, then it's a little more out of time, a little bit more. And what happens is after a while these things just kind of loop around.
It starts phasing itself.
Exactly, yeah. So it's kind of, and there's a section with the piano in the middle where it's exactly what I was going for. It all goes out of time, then gradually wanders back into time. So I was looking for that, but also I wanted to do something that was really quite empty and desolate, and the kind of the complete opposite of what we're known for, the whole kind of the thrashing of Info Freako, or the kind of the popness of Real. I wanted to do something completely opposite from that.
It was very, very desolate would be a word I'd describe it as, and I thoroughly enjoyed the Middle Eastern vocals on it. That was something else that was a new tinge to it.
Right,
it's sort of. It's like, oh, this is very different. I like it.
Yeah, I'm still a sucker for that.
Any memories of either playing live or recording of Cut and Drive?
Oh God, yes, yeah. I mean, that I remember writing that. That was actually probably one of the very first things I did with the sampler that I got that kind of changed the way that we changed our careers really. just sampling different drum sounds and put them in the drum machine that created the Song 13 title, and triggering the samples off that drum machine. And Cut and Dry was one of the first things I did with that. And I had a 12-string acoustic guitar at the time, which I used for some of the original chord playing. So I remember writing it and the early recording of it. Very much.
Cool. Do you remember recording, or I don't know whether you've played this one live again, Machine Drug?
I do remember recording it. It was over the period of a summer, a long summer in a studio in Camden that I owned with one of the guys from Food Records. It was a funny situation where the engineer just wouldn't turn up for days and days. You just say, let yourself in the studio, I'll leave everything set up, and I would go and just write in the studio all the time. And that was one of the songs that I just pieced together day by day.
And the last one, do you remember any recording or playing live of Half Up the Hill of London?
I do, recording that. I was doing all the recording myself at that point, not using a studio, so it's all done on a digital hard drive recorder, which now is an incredibly outdated piece of machinery. It's amazing that it's time has changed that much. But I remember writing it in my house and studio. I lived in a 4th floor apartment at the time, so I remember just going over it and looking out in the view over northwest London that I did it.
Okay, right. Absolutely. Last question. What would you say was the best moment of your whole career with the band?
Oh,
or has it happened yet?
No, there's so many to choose from at this point. I mean, just in the kind of obvious ways, I suppose, playing in front of 72,000 people at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah,
it's always nice to say to people I played to 70,000 people at Wembley Stadium. Knowing that, hearing from our manager that Doubt had entered the charts ahead of Sting and someone else, that's entered the charts at number 1. That was a big thing. I think the first moment we had a genuine hit single, a top 40 hit single, Real, that was really exciting.
That's got to be a pretty big one.
Yeah, especially since we've missed it 3 times, but almost the same much. I think the same amount. Rather, we had 3 or 4 singles before, and they all got to about 41 or 42, then just outside. So to finally make it with Real was really exciting. Loads of things really.
I bet.